Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. It's been a cool minute as usual, but honestly I feel like I'm always giving y'all a backstory, but AM shift has been something different. It is not like PM shift, and we're going to talk about that today. But long story short, I've been working so much. I feel like, on SpongeBob, Squidward, he was like going to work, coming home, sun going up, sun going down, going to work, coming home. That's how I felt like while I was doing the AM shift, because it was just like work. Like, it was just a lot going on. I felt drained, and I don't want to force myself to produce content because I don't want to be sitting up here fake kikiing like, hey guys, and I'm not really feeling hey guys, So I was like, let me take a step back, let me take a break, listen to my body, listen to myself. My birthday passed, Pepper's birthday passed. We are both a year older. I went to Switzerland for my birthday. If you guys would like a video about Switzerland, I can make one. I really wanted to go to Switzerland for a very long time, so I'm very happy that I was able to use my benefits to actually go out there. I had the time of my life. But if y'all want to hear about that, let me know in the comments. I can definitely tell you guys all about Switzerland. But today we're going to be talking about AM shift versus PM shift. Okay, first off, I have my water here because I have a mouthful to tell, and I feel like I might get a little parched. Okay, let's first run it back as to why I even put myself on AM shift when I said I was never going to do that. Just to refresh y'all memory, back in January, I was working with a flight attendant who was lower in seniority than I was. She said that she was on AM shift and her schedule in December, she only got called like 2 or 3 times. And she basically had a lot of days where she was on reserve but not being called. So essentially, that's getting paid to be at home. And that's the vibe that I want. So I was like, say less. Honestly, everyone has been telling me that if you work AM shift, you work more. But then this girl just told me that she was on AM shift in December and she barely got called, versus on the opposite end, I was on PM shift and I got used every day of December. So I said that I'm going to go ahead and I need to see for myself what AM shift is talking about. So I put myself on AM shift in February, right? And then February was trash. It was like overwork, winter storms, all that. And getting called at 4:05, 4:30 in the morning, I was like, this is too much. And then I was like, you know what? I want to be on PM shift. I don't want to do this no more. I made, I put in my bid for my schedule for March, and I said PM shift for every selection, and they gave me AM shift. So that was 60 days of our 2 months of being on reserve on AM shift. And so, I done did it so long that now I'm just like, you know what? I don't mind being on AM shift now. So now it's April and now I'm on AM shift. So now we're going on 3 months of being on AM shift. Now, the reason why I decided to do AM shift in April is because at this point, I'm used to AM shift now. And eventually, or like, not even eventually, but like I honestly want to be a morning person. I've never been a morning person. I'm always like annoyed every time I wake up. It doesn't matter. I just don't like waking up early at all. Like early for me is like anything over 7:30 is like we doing too much. But like a long time ago, anything over 11 was like, ooh. But because I've been on AM shift, I'm like naturally waking up around 6:30, 7:30. And ideally, I would like to be a part of the 5 a.m. club. So I believe that working 4 to 4 will really help me get to that, because the early bird catches the worm. Successful people wake up early. Successful people are not waking up at 11, 12. No, they're not doing that. They're getting up early, and I want to ideally be that person that wakes up, works out, did the yoga, did the breakfast, walked the dog, played with Pepper. You know, I want to like have all that done by 10:30. That would be great. And then start my day and still feel refreshed. So that's the end goal for me. So not sure how long I'm gonna stay on AM shift, but right now we gonna rock with AM shift until I really get tired of it. Okay, so normally when I used to work PM shift, I would always get a minimum of 3 days where I'm on call but not being called. And normally that's like the first day of the bucket, the first 2 days of the bucket, or the first of each bucket throughout the month that I'm on reserve, if that makes sense. So I was always like, okay, I'm gonna get 3 days. On AM shift, out of working February and March, I've only been able to get 1 day out of 2 months where I've been on reserve and I did not get called. And it was in the middle of a bucket. Like it was a 4-day bucket, I believe, and the second day I didn't get called. And it didn't even feel like a free day because I kept checking my phone. Even while I was on my phone, I was checking my phone like, did they call me? I think they called me. Let me check my schedule. Let me make sure there's nothing on my schedule. I didn't really go too far from my home because I was like, if they call me, I need to be ready for work. It was like, I was so tense until 4 o'clock because I just didn't know if I was gonna get called. So that was like a wasted day, a wasted free day. I wish it was like, one thing I do wish that the company did was like they announced like, we don't need you today, girl. If they told me at 4 a.m., they could even call me and say, we don't need you. That would be perfect, because then I wouldn't be so on edge and so like, can't do this, can't do that, can't drive to Houston or nothing because I might have to go to work. So that's the only thing that sucks. But I did get 1 day out of the 60 days. So I will say that. But what I can say is that you do work. You're gonna work AM shift. Like from my experience, and I'm telling y'all that I worked. What old girl was talking about happened in December, that was December, okay? And that's another thing. She said that happened in December. Let's put that in perspective, okay? Company needs change daily. Company needs are based on current events, okay? And also what I wanna say is that yesterday's rumor about the company is not today's rumor. Okay? It's always something new. It is literally always something new. We even get announcements that we'll get in the morning, and then the next day they'll be like, oh, cancel that announcement. We want to change that. We want to edit that. We want to rescind that, retract that, and we have something new to tell you. So things change literally every single day, and it's based on company needs. So just to like give you guys a breakdown of what was going on in February and March versus what was going on in December, okay? So in February and March, we had, let's start with some of the holidays. There was President's Day, Valentine's Day, Groundhog's Day, Lunar Year, Ash Wednesday, St. Patrick's Day, the Super Bowl, which is not a holiday, these are just events now. The Super Bowl, March Madness, and Oh, and let's not forget, basically every week in March is somebody's spring break. Oh wait, and there's more. In February, we had 2 winter storms in Dallas. And then I believe there were other winter storms in other areas, but I can only focus on what I was going through. So 2 unexpected winter storms in Dallas on top of, current events. Gas prices went up. You need fuel to fuel the aircrafts. So that's a company need and a company, concern. And oh yeah, there is a war going on. So that affects company needs as well. So there's so many things that were going on in February and March versus in December. The only thing I can recall was, the only major holiday was Christmas, number 1. And that's it. That's all that was going on in December, just Christmas. February and March, it was on and popping. And I was getting called all the time. On top of all the current events I just listed and the holidays that were going on. Holidays means increased flying. The events like the Super Bowl and March Madness means increased flying. Not only do the basketball teams, are they flying, but their families are flying, their fans are flying, the college students are on spring break, they're flying, families are flying. So everybody and their mama literally is flying. And other airlines are also hiring, and they're starting training during February and March, January, February, March. So we've had a lot of flight attendants leaving the company, whether they were moving on to another airline, whether they were, moving on to something different, or just quitting or simply retiring. So we're losing people faster than we can hire people, because yes, you can hire people, but they still have to go through 30 days of training and then pass training and then get scheduled for IOE and then go to the base that they need you to go to and then get to Dallas. So that was what, like 4-5 steps versus the flight attendant who is in Dallas, who's like put in their 2 weeks and they leave on the first day of their 2 weeks. So yeah, short-staffed is an understatement, which is why I have been getting called multiple times, all the time. I've been getting trips the night before my bucket even starts. I'll be getting trips 12 in the morning, 3 in the morning. They'll call me 4:05 in the morning, 4:30 in the morning. It was to the point where I would check on the call first area to see if there was a glitch in the system, and I was moved to call first, because I was like, what is going on? I've never been called like this. I've never been called like this ever. But of course, this is a new year and there's all these holidays and events. And then I put myself on AM shift, which was like the goofiest move ever during this time. But yeah, I did that. So that's why I was getting called, and that's why I was working so much. So I will say, in this instance, if you ever wanted to try out AM shift, maybe look into what events are going on and what holidays are coming up, because those 2 things are very important. Look, I will never put myself on AM shift January, February, or March ever again, especially not March. When I tell y'all, spring break, March Madness, all that was crazy. It was crazy, okay? Listen, 4 a.m. is just, it's so early. Getting somebody on your line at 4 a.m. talking about coming to work is like, huh? I don't even know if you would consider that early. Like, I feel like, because the clubs close at 3. Like when I used to go to the club and stuff like that, like, you know, you come home, it's like 2:33, you might eat something, wind down, go to sleep. 4 o'clock, I am asleep. Don't text me, don't nothing. I feel like 5 a.m. is like, that's the time that successful people are getting up, getting ready to go to the gym, or at the gym rather. No, getting ready to go to the gym, and then they're there by 5:30. 4 a.m. just is like the optimal window that everybody and their mama should be asleep. Honestly, I really want to take a poll on this. Is 4 a.m. early morning or late at night? Like, which one is it? Early morning, late at night? What is 4 a.m.? Because Starbucks isn't open at 4 a.m. You can't get breakfast at Chick-fil-A at 4 a.m. So what is 4 a.m.? But I gotta go to work at 4 a.m. What I'm gonna eat? That's what I'm trying to figure out. 4 a.m. feels like late night to me, but I don't really know. Anyways, 4 a.m. is different. Definitely it's different. I'm low-key used to it, like on a scale of 1 to 10. I think I'm at like a 6.5, 7. Yeah, 6.5, 7. I need to be in the bed no later than 9:30. 10 is like, I know I'm gonna have attitude in the morning if I have to get up at 4 or get a phone call by 4. But yeah, we're not playing after 10. Like my eyes need to be shut, closed at 10 on that dot. Like I don't play around on my phone or nothing like that. Because I just want to be in good spirits by the time I get up and go to work, because you know, this job is about having a good attitude. Like, I don't know about y'all, but I've actually worked with some flight attendants that have attitudes. Sometimes it's not even early, and it's like, why you got that energy? Like, you should have called out, because that having an attitude really rubs off. I don't really like when people bring their problems to work, bring their attitude to work. Like, don't do that. If you're watching this, even if you're not a morning person, the time that you wake up to the time you have to get to work, drop the attitude. Like, put it away, do something with it, put some makeup over it and a smile, but don't bring that attitude to work, because it really rubs off, and like your coworkers feel it, your crew feels it, the passengers notice. I mean, they literally will point out people like, oh, the nice flight attendant and the mean flight attendant, the flight attendant with attitude and the nice flight attendant. So don't be the one with attitude. Don't be the one who's looking crusty. Don't be the one who, I don't know, all the other negative things that people could possibly say. Like, look your best and bring your best attitude to work. And if you really are not a morning person and you really feel like you can't figure it out and, you know, bring good energy, then you need to stick to PM shift. Because that 9 a.m., and it's not that you have to be at work by 9 a.m., it's that you would have 2 hours from 9 a.m. So technically, the earliest that you have to be at work is 11 a.m. And if that's something that you can do, then I would definitely stick to that, versus having to be at work at the earliest 6 a.m. Sometimes earlier than that if they put a schedule on your trip the night before. Anyways, let's talk about very quickly the pros and cons, or not really pros and cons, but like the differences between AM shift and PM shift that I have noticed. Now it's only been 2 months of working AM shift, and it is 2022. Of course, we're in different conditions. Gas is like $2,000. So, you know, it's never been like that before, or at least, you know, not in my lifetime. So that's a big factor. And all the times that I worked PM shift was last year in 2021. So just please be reminded that I'm giving you my experiences of the current events of 2022 versus 2021 PM shift, okay? If you're watching this, I don't know, 2024, 2025, year 3000, girl, this advice is non-applicable, okay? Gas might be, I don't know, super expensive, and it might be normal to y'all at this point. So take it with a grain of salt, but just listen up. So I've compiled a quick little list here so we don't get too long-winded. But for AM shift, what I have witnessed is that I have longer overnights with more daytime. We typically end between 12 and 2 o'clock. Majority of the time, there have been times where it's been between 4 and 6. But typically I have early releases between 12 and 2. So with that being said, sometimes I'm in Santa Fe and I have the whole day to go out and explore. And I didn't have that opportunity like I did when I had PM shift, because we always get in around 9:30, 10 o'clock. Everything was closed. You're tired. You don't really feel like it. When you have AM shift, I have time to, well, when I've had AM shift and I have an overnight, I have time to take a nap, get up, and go explore if I wanted to. Another point that I wanted to mention is that if you are working AM shift and you are working in first class and it's a weekday, or even on the weekends, if you're having an early flight that's like 6 a.m., 5:30 a.m., 7 a.m., typically people are not drinking. Sometimes people don't even want a drink at all. They just want to sleep. So that in turn means that you have less work to do. Versus when I worked PM shift, people were off work, going home, starting their weekends, starting their trips. They're like vacation trips. So they're like, yeah, it's time to pour up and keep them coming. So I was busy making drinks, doing rounds, bringing, Jack and Cokes and all that stuff. I was busy when I was working in first class for PM shift. So that's one of the differences that I can say. The earlier your flight, the less commotion, because typically the whole flight, everyone on the flight goes to sleep. It's a nice quiet ride. I rarely hear babies crying, but if I do, it would have been on a PM shift flight, not an AM shift flight. Like, the babies be asleep and quiet. So that's what I've experienced with AM shift. A couple things that I have to note about PM shift. Now, this is all from 2021 experience. I think I worked PM shift in January too, but overall PM shift, those were the shifts that I had stand-ups, which is where I would come into work around for a flight that takes off at 9:30, 10:30 at night, and then we'll have a very short overnight and we have to leave in the morning at 5:30, 6:30 a.m. Stand-ups were only in my PM shifts. I haven't had one in the AM shift. Also, with my PM shifts, I had ready reserve. If I had one day left in my bucket, they would always give me ready reserve. Like, my last day, if it wasn't attached to a trip, 100% chance that I would get ready reserve. I've had very few. I probably had like one per month of ready reserve in AM shift this year, compared to I would have ready reserve at least maybe 3 times in a month on PM shift. With PM shift, you have shorter overnights. Normally you're coming in late, everything's closed, you don't have time to go out. So that kind of sucks. Yeah, everything's pretty much closed by the time you land. So, and you're tired. So it's just like nothing to do. When you're on PM shift, you can essentially run all your errands before you get to work. So that's nice, you know, grocery store, meal prep. I used to do a lot of my errands right before work. So that was really helpful when I worked PM. When you're working AM shift, me personally, I'm not a morning person, so I wouldn't be running errands before 4 a.m. And plus things are closed, so errands need to be done the night before. Hair needs to be done the night before for me, and I need to be well rested so I can be ready for my shift the next day. Also, working PM shift versus AM shift, I've experienced more delays in PM shift. And I say that because typically when I'm working PM shift, we are waiting on the aircraft to arrive. And sometimes that aircraft that is flying into, let's say DFW, sometimes it hasn't left yet, there's mechanical errors or something is going on. There's weather that prevents them from leaving the airport that they're at to even get to DFW. So that in turn makes and creates delays, right? Versus when I'm working AM shift and I have the first flight of the day, typically are basically always that aircraft is the same aircraft that came in from the night before. So it's been at the airport all night. And when we get there, it's waiting on us rather than we're waiting on an aircraft to come in, if that makes sense. I think I made that very, simple and clear for y'all. But yeah, so those are the things that I have noticed. Now, one tidbit, I personally haven't had, whether I'm working AM shift or PM shift, it's either they'll give me a trip in a reasonable time. So it's never been within the last hour that they give me a trip. Like, no. The latest I've gotten a trip put on my schedule was around 6 with PM shift. And the latest I've gotten a trip put on my schedule with AM shift was, I believe like 11. So yeah, I have heard of people getting calls at 3:55 or 8:59 p.m. So just because you've experienced not getting called that late, that does not mean you're off the hook. I wouldn't recommend going to a happy hour, nothing like that, because, it may just be your luck that you have a random drug test and you don't went to happy hour and you're not gonna pass. So don't let that be you. But what I can tell you from working AM and PM shift is that the only thing that is certain and that you have control over is the days that you would like to be on call, which is making your schedule. I feel like it's equivalent to being like a puppet. The job is the puppeteer. And yeah, you're gonna do whatever they want you to do on those days you're on call, okay? Yeah, it's doing a lot of this. If we want you to get up and arrive at 6 a.m. and you work PM, that's what you're gonna do. Like, that's pretty much what it is. It's like the best way I can explain it. Just because you work PM shift doesn't mean that they will put a trip on your schedule at 7 a.m. for 7 a.m. report time. Just because you work 4 to 4 doesn't mean that they won't put a trip on your schedule for the next day, your next reserved day for 6 p.m. showtime. It's out of your range, but that's still in your bucket, if that makes sense. So yeah, you got to do it and you got to go to work. And don't try to fight nobody about it. I wouldn't go back and forth with crew support. Oh, and that's another little tidbit. They do write notes about you on the crew support little hotline, they do have notes about us. So if you're one of those that goes back and forth with crew support and you go back and forth with in-flight, they do have their little notes about each person, people who are, you know, nasty over the phone, attitudes, cussing people out. So I wouldn't recommend. I mean, I'm never like that. I'm not like that with anybody, honestly. But when it comes to when you need to get things done, even though you talk to different people with crew support, those notes are still there. So they're still going to refer to, oh, she might be nice today because she needs something, but the notes say that she has a nasty attitude, so I'm not going to help her. So be mindful of that. If you're someone that likes to have a little attitude with people over the phone, don't do that, okay? That was my experience with working AM and PM shift thus far. It is now April of 2022, and I'm still on AM shift. So we'll see how this month goes. There's Easter, and I think there's like a Jewish holiday. And then there's spring break still going on. So I don't want to speak that into existence. So I'm just not going to say nothing. By the grace of God, I'll have more days where I am on reserve and not being called. Yeah, let's go for that, okay? Hope you guys enjoyed the content. Let me know what you want to see in the comments below, and I will see you guys in the next video.